Welcome to another episode of Studio B Sessions with me, Bindra, owner of Bindra Productions here in Orlando. And like always, we have Mario on the producer desk helping us make this amazing episode.
Hey guys, nice to see you again. Hope you are having a great day.
And our guest today is Josh Reimer, your first AC.
Yeah.
And we had an incredible conversation, I think a week or so ago. So I was like, we have to record this. And so thank you for taking the time out and coming out and talking to me.
Of course, it's my honor. Yeah, this is great.
So how's the week been for you?
It's been a tough one.
I know you mentioned you were on a feature or something, right?
yeah. So there's a movie shooting in Orlando right now. Really dedicated cast and crew. And it started out as a short film. It's one of those movies that they made a short film, it blew up, it went to all these film festivals, and it was really just one of those projects that inspired people. And they got a grant from Panavision, and Panavision gave them a budget. They gave them all this equipment, and they're now making it into a feature film, shooting it here in Orlando because that's the director's hometown. It's going well. It's a really interesting story that I can't talk about, but it's it's a really interesting story, and we're getting to work with people of all different, races and religions, and people with disabilities, which is interesting because I've never really worked with people with disabilities, so wheelchair users and people with cognitive disabilities, and working around those people is kind of different, and it's been a learning experience, but it's been great. It's been hard work. We've been filming in Lakeland, beautiful place actually for the past few days. Bonnet Springs Park in Lakeland, which is beautiful, and we've just been filming there and getting a lot of stuff the past few days, and now I'm on my very valued few days off. And I'm just taking it easy and doing creative stuff like this, which is great. I love doing stuff like this.
That's awesome, though. It sounds like an amazing project. And funny enough, this reflects back to the podcast episode I had where somebody asked me, we were talking about short films, and I was
Yeah.
like, typically they don't lead to anything. So this is a great opposite example where, hey, if you do make something amazing, it can get you noticed, and then you can get a budget to make something like a feature or whatever, right? Because I think that's the incredible story here from what you're telling me about this project.
Yes, absolutely. I truly believe in the power of short films. There's a lot of power in short films, and it is a fantastic way to display your talent as a director, DP, and work with your friends. And really, that's how it starts. It really is that innocent sometimes. If you make a short film and you work with your friends, and it doesn't matter the budget, but you make it about something that is undeniable, it is a story that people can relate to and just level with at such a different frequency, that is something that can go a long way. It really all comes down to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so this feature, which has it has a scale of 1.5 million, and it's non-union, but we're using SAG actors, and we're it's just it's a bigger project for the narrative world here in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Grand scheme, not huge, bigger for Orlando, and
Yeah.
it's that came from a short film.
Yeah.
Just a short film that they really marketed and got around, and they caught people's eye, and people saw it for what it was, which was a really beautiful story. And it is a really beautiful story, and I can't wait to see how it comes out when it's adapted to this feature-length film.
And that's awesome. And that's the whole power of why I wanted to do this podcast, is so people can hear from, just different perspectives. Because my
Yeah.
perspective hasn't been that, right? I know a lot of people made short films and got nowhere.
Yeah.
But I do want people to not hear just my experience. I want people to hear the other side of it. And you're one that you're actually working on, getting paid to work on this amazing project where it started off as a short film. So there is, I guess, a great perspective that, hey, sometimes it does work.
Yeah.
So it's just important to go out there and create and then market it, and then as long as it's awesome, it can lead to something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm guessing you're a first AC on this project.
Yeah, so I'm BCam 1st on this. So we have 2 units, and most of the time we're working together. Sometimes we split off, and so I'm working with the BCam op, and I also work, closely. Camera department is very tight knit,
Yeah.
which I think is something that is really special. And so I work with just as much as I work with the BCam op, I'm also working with a cam unit, and I'm just as close with the DP, and it's wonderful.
That's incredible. So you're also opping the second unit, and then like you said, you're helping the first unit. So that's expensive role. But I guess on a lower budget movie, that's even though it's big for Orlando, still lower budget. It's kind of you have to have multiple hats, right?
So not so much. So I'm working very closely with them. I'm not opping. I'm still very much first AC pulling focus.
Okay.
But it's great because on some movies when they have a B cam, you just never really see the other unit, and so it's wonderful because sometimes it's like that, and then some days we're just like really all together, and it's I love shooting just like 2 cameras, getting 2 cameras on a scene, and like I'm just feeding off of the A cam first AC's energy, and we're talking about the scene and like what B cam is doing different than A cam, and I like that different perspective. Most of the time I'm A cam first AC, and so I'm on the main camera, and this time I'm on B cam, which is it's actually my second time being a B cam first. Usually I'm only A cam, and so I like the different perspective of shooting from a secondary camera.
But that's pretty cool perspective too. So they have 2 units. Sometimes you're doing multicam, so that both units are working, and then sometimes you're separating and doing your own thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean it must be unique perspective because like you said, you have a counterpart on A cam who's doing their thing. So a good collaborative thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if you've worked on a film set before, I mean, you just know how much like it starts to feel like a family, and it's just like so much more of that on this movie because this movie has a lot of people and there's so much passion in it. I mean, when I first got contacted about the role and the DP Farhad talked to me about the role, he sent me the lookbook and he sent me like the pitch deck and the link to the original short film. That is amazing. Like I hop on these projects. I never know anything about it. I'm just doing it like I'm being hired as a focus puller. Like I'm a first AC. They need a first AC. They need someone to hop in there. The pitch for me on this movie was kind of like, we need somebody in this role. Look at what we're doing. Look at the passion we have. Do you want to be part of this, not just for the money, but also because you're going to be a part of something very special? And that's a difference that like, wow, that's something I haven't really seen before.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. Yeah. So why first AC? Let's start with that.
Sure.
I don't know. I guess you tell me. Why first AC?
Why first AC? Oh my God.
Did you get thrown into it or you actually chose it?
No, I chose it. I love cameras. I have always been a fanatic about cameras, and I'm like a gearhead. I love creativity. I love, obviously, like I wouldn't have gone into the film industry if I didn't love movies, but I'm a technical person. I love cameras. I love different gear and the differences between gear and like what lenses look like this and what lenses look like that and the discrepancy between them. And so I got into it. I feel like how a lot of people get into it, just a pure love of cinema. I went to Valencia, which is shout out Valencia, amazing film program. I mean, they really just gave me such an amazing
Valencia
base.
versus Full Sail. Controversial thing. Yeah, these are Valencia. 2 schools here.
Always.
Yeah.
You have to think about. You have to really think about.
Mario may have a different perspective, huh? Full Sail versus Valencia, film program.
I mean, I don't.
You're gonna pick the rivals because you went to Full Sail. So
yeah, I know they're rivals, but
how dare you?
I don't like to be a rival.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I know people from Valencia.
Yeah.
And they're really
they're good programs. For,
the truth is, nobody's rivals. Yeah. It's like I've worked with so many amazing people from Full Sail. I've worked with some amazing people from UCF.
Yeah.
There are differences between these film programs. You have to look at those differences when you begin. But honestly, for me, Full Sail, I did look at Full Sail. I went on a tour of Full Sail. It was amazing. Like I couldn't believe the facilities that they had. It was a budget thing for me. And I think that's how it starts
Yeah.
for a lot of people. It's a budget thing. The truth is, Full Sail is expensive. It's a
Yeah.
private school. Valencia is a community college. And a lot of people look at Valencia, they're like, it's a community college. What kind of film program could they have? A really amazing one. I couldn't believe it. It
Yeah.
really actually blew my mind.
Yeah, for community, I mean, the program is great. I've
Yeah.
seen it, and I mean, and that's the power of Orlando in general.
Yeah.
You know, how many cities, I don't know other ones, where you have 3 incredible programs, because you have UCF,
Yeah.
you have Full Sail, and obviously Valencia to
Yeah.
choose from. So that's a lot of options for somebody wanting to get into film.
It's amazing.
To pick it without leaving,
Yeah.
you know, your hometown, or if you like Disney or whatever, come here and study and, you know, have fun on the weekends. So I think-
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
There's so much opportunity here for film. And it's crazy because it's kind of a it's a little ironic because there's not much of a film industry in Orlando, but there's a lot of opportunity to learn how to be in the film industry. And you could make it work. You can make it work if you want to make it work. But I went to Valencia. I really, really loved it. I'd recommend it to anybody. It's such a hidden gem. And they just gave me such an amazing just foundation of like what I know. I mean, it was just hands-on constantly. They teach you all the roles of being on a film set so you get to choose what you want to move into. And I learned sound, I learned lighting. I mean, lighting is amazing. Like there's such an incredible, like being a gaffer, lighting, there's so much inspiration there and so much like opportunity. But really what I fell into was working on cameras. I love it. You're like on the front lines. You are so important to the project. Like you're essential. And first day seeing, first assistant camera, that's the role that I fell into. I like leading. I like leading and being the head of something and kind of being a key. I like feeling important, and it's very satisfying to me on set when I'm able to direct when I'm able to direct something on set. Because then I still feel like I'm in a creative role while I'm being technical. And as a first AC, you are the focus puller. It's one of the main parts of the job, and you are responsible for keeping the image sharp. There is a instinctual like creativity in that, in which you have to have like this instinct, and you have to make decisions sometimes on the fly. The focus is where the viewer looks. It's not something that could be changed in post. It has to be done live. It's really interesting because a lot of things could be changed in post, but not focused.
Yeah, no, you're guiding.
Yeah.
Which so it's a random thought. It reminds me years and years ago. Do you remember this camera came out? It was like you could
Yep.
change focus. Oh my god! It was like a box essentially lens in it. Anyway.
I know exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking
right.
about.
It was a long time ago, and I still
Yeah.
remember they were like, "You can change focus in post," but you're right.
Yeah.
Most spherical or anamorphic lenses, you cannot change focus. It is, locked in.
Yeah.
And this random project that I all of a sudden remembered is long gone. I don't think it worked out.
No, it didn't work out. It was just it just didn't take off. And I don't know why, but it was a brilliant idea, and I do remember that.
Yeah.
But no, focus is so interesting to me because you're directing the viewer's eye. And sometimes like I work with the DP, I work hand in hand with the DP because sometimes there are shots where there's a scene happening and there's multiple characters. It's, an emotional scene, a dramatic scene, whatever. The focus is important. It's not, you don't want to just bounce back between people. You want it to be just purposeful.
Yeah.
You want it to be purposeful. You want to direct the viewer.
And I think it's very important. Like it on my side, and obviously we're not doing movies over here, but we're doing corporate and commercial work. It drives me crazy, and because it's not. I don't think it's an issue in film, but like in corporate environments, these people are demanding us to make, give them more depth of field. Like they want, if they could have a T.5 lens, they would. So I'm saying, so a lot of times we're shooting T1.4, and you know how shallow.
Yes, sir.
Your depth of field is there, or your roll off. So it drives me crazy sometimes. When we have to shoot T1.4 and then the eyes are not in focus. I'm like, I'm tired of like having to then ask the editors, because then we have to go in post and we have to track that. Thank goodness for modern tracking tools, we can do that. Track the eyes, add post sharpness, so you can somewhat fix it.
Somewhat.
But somewhat, yeah, it's not perfect. But you're right. Like at that time, I'm like, oh my goodness, like. these eyes need to be in focus. That's the focal
Yeah.
point for me of any person, especially what we're doing. You know, to me, that's where we show intent of whoever's on camera. But it's pretty common, at least in my world, where we're forced to film, you know, such wide open,
Yeah.
and then the eyes are not in focus. Whether it's
Yeah.
autofocus or human, it's just hard to keep up with.
It is, and it's like little intricacies like that that makes me really enjoy the job. Like focus is storytelling. It's one of the ways that you direct the viewer's eye, and I'm responsible for that. It's an amazing feeling. I love it, and if I do my job right, nobody will ever know that I did it at all, and that's fine.
Yeah,
But
that's a part of it, right? Because if they're
Yeah.
noticing it,
No.
something went wrong.
exactly.
So that's pretty cool. You know, and just for some, I mean, most of our audience, I assume, is filmmakers, so they should know. But for somebody, let's say, is a beginner, outside of pulling focus, what does a first AC do?
Oh my God, just a million things I could talk about it. We could fill up this whole 2 hours with it, but
let's make it brief.
we're gonna make it
For
brief.
let's say somebody who's beginning who's like, so do I just pull focus? And I know you obviously
Yeah.
have to do a lot more. So kind of brief overview of what all that extra stuff is beyond
Yeah.
pulling focus.
So when you learn about the roles on set, or at least this was like my process, and I feel like it's a lot of people's process, you start like, okay, so there's the director, and then you realize, wait, there's a lot of positions under them, and then you learn about the positions, but you learn like the key points of each position, kind of like the headline. So for first AC, it's focus puller. Focus. That's, you know, you're a first AC, you're a focus puller.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's a big part of the job. It's an essential part of the job, but it's not the biggest part of the job. The biggest part of being a first AC is being a camera technician. And this is how I sum up the job to mostly everybody. I'm a camera technician. So the DP is big picture. He is, I mean, he's a creative, he, she, you know, they're a creative role. The DP is a very, very creative role. And they are literally shaping the look of the production with the director. They work hand in hand. And they don't have time for when the wireless goes out or when the batteries run low or when, I don't know, the lens has some aberration that shouldn't be there. They don't have time for that. That falls on me. So as the first AC, I'm a key. I'm the leader of the camera department. So under me would be like the second AC, followed by like an additional second or a camera utility, and the DIT, and there's multiple roles that could be added into the camera department, but the main ones are first AC, second AC, and so I'm responsible for everything relating to the camera. It's really troubleshooting, it's maintaining the integrity of the image, which is key, making sure that the settings are correct. Settings for the DP, moving the camera where it needs to be. If he wants to do a dolly shot, we're getting the camera up on the dolly. We work with G&E to do that. Sticks, hi-hat, handheld. We configure it for whatever. We switch lenses. We clean lenses, filters. It's a gazillion things, but I'm a camera technician, and that's really how I would
How
sum
many
it up.
bottles of Pancro do you have at home?
Many. A lot.
Yeah.
Use a lot of that stuff.
Exactly. So this is and that's why I'm like, it's a very expansive role. Like you said, most people just go, oh, focus puller. But no, when you have a first AC, and like I said, to me in corporate and commercial work, and like I said, sets are getting smaller. Having a first AC, we were talking about, this is like a privilege. But whenever I do, it's such a help because it takes away so much. Because usually I'm the guy, I have to DP, but now on top of that, I have to be the technician. And I'm like, that's dividing your attention. And if I could, I'd rather not. And then that makes it, which is why I've devised my formula now, at least for my work. I make sure before we even show up, I've dialed all the settings and the lenses and everything in.
That's great.
Which is good, but that's extra work. It's not like the work is just eliminated. A lot of people think I've had that. So where I'll show up with a friend, we'll shoot a big production, and then they're like, "Oh, it went smooth." Yeah, it didn't go smooth because, it went smooth because a day or two of pre-production, or the technician work that happened in the back, and so that we could accomplish all that, and that could have been avoided had we had a first AC or a second AC or whatever, like a team helping us configure that on set, right? And which is what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're taking that because most productions don't have 2 days before to be setting up settings and lenses and all that. Yeah.
Exactly. So that we do that, but it falls on me instead of the DP. So it's a prep, and so ACs do have pre-production. We have a prep. Some days 2 days of prep if it's a big show, and that's when all the gear comes in, and we're gonna build it. We're gonna set the settings. We're gonna fix every single problem, whether it be the wireless is busted, it's not connecting, or something as stupid as I don't know, the focus motor is interfering with the handle going on the rosette, something like that. Just little ergonomic problems that need to be fixed before you step on set, so you don't encounter it on set. Camera always has to be up first. Cameras just, it's essential. Like, people want to look at the image. We are the department that is, everybody, all the focus falls on us. Like, we got to be up and ready. The DP says, I want this on a 35. I want a handheld on my shoulder. He's going to want it now.
Yeah.
And so we got to be ready for that.
Exactly. You got to kind of already be envisioning what the DP wants, right?
Exactly.
And be ready for it. That's pretty
Anticipation
cool.
is a
So
big
what kind of projects are you normally on? So talk about the scale. Obviously,
Totally.
like you said, Orlando isn't huge in film. I mean, we have random projects happen, but so you probably have to either travel, or what do you do? More commercial work locally? Talk to me about that. Like, what's...
I do a healthy blend, and I really enjoy that because it sometimes I will hop on a movie, and I'll know when I'm ready to hop on a movie, because movies are hard. Movies don't pay as much as commercials. It is a mindset that I have to be in. I have to be ready for it. So when people ask me to do a movie, if I'm feeling like I want to go to Atlanta, I want to go to Kentucky, I want to go to LA and do a movie, then, I'll go. And then that's multiple weeks that my schedule is filled. And I love movies. I mean, that's why I got into this business in the first place. So yeah, I travel a lot for movies. And then here in Orlando, since there's not much of a narrative market because the tax incentives aren't that good, commercials, huge. Commercials are king here. So big commercials will shoot here. I mean, we have these massive theme parks, Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, and they spend a ton of money on marketing, as one would assume. I mean, they pour money into it. So, they do a lot of commercials, and a lot of companies come to Orlando to do commercials. And so I do a lot of commercials here, and that's really where, you make your profit.
And we also have a big virtual production studio here. So there's enough commercial, which is crazy. For not having a narrative market, we do have a big commercial market.
Absolutely.
It may not be as big as Miami, but it's pretty decent sized over here. And so that's pretty great because, we're losing movies. We lost Marvel in Atlanta because of incentives. They're all going to UK. So movie industry in general is struggling. So it's good to have, this other side where you're like, oh, I can do this commercial, and you can still have, you can be working otherwise. And, you may be out of work. And also the other thing is commercials, like you said, pay way better. It's a longer time commitment on a narrative, and also the pay is generally lower versus, commercials. A shorter time frame. You can hop on much faster. It's also pays higher. I'm guessing it's more easier work too, somewhat, because, I don't know.
It's definitely easier. I mean, generally it's easier. Definitely depends on the commercial. I've had some days where I'm like on set for 6 hours and I pull focus on just a few shots, and then I build up the camera, take it down, and I'm out, and I get paid close to $1,000. And then there are some days where we're there for 14, 15 hours, and commercials, like, this isn't a movie, like, these are commercials, 14, 15 hours shooting so much stuff, and the rate is just like, it's all right, it's not that good, but it's work. So this is definitely a spectrum.
Those type of clients I was talking about, where it's like they put in T14 and now you're like, focus, and you're like, I'm sure that must be hard. Do you have some kind of tools? Like, how would you do it differently than, I don't know. It's just a challenge for you too, or?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, if I was put you in that situation, it's like, here you go. Here's a VistaVision camera with T14 lens. Now focus on the eye.
No, it's a challenge. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the job is hard, and you never feel totally confident. You feel great, and then this shot comes along like that, and you're like, God willing, I could get this.
Yeah, exactly.
And focus is also one of those things, like, They don't want to do another shot. They don't want to redo a shot for focus. The focus puller couldn't get it. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me?
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't.
You don't want to hear
understand.
hold for focus. That would be bad, right?
No,
Just like hold for sound, hold for focus. Any of these things you don't want to be called out on set because even though, like I tell people, half the movie or half the commercial is sound.
Yeah.
The moment you say hold for sound, you're looking bad.
Yeah,
and same thing for
exactly.
focus. It's like you know these are unsung, I say, heroes. You're one of
Yeah.
them on set where you're like you're doing so much work, but the best way you can do work is just to not get noticed. Because
Yeah.
if you're slowing everyone down, is when you get noticed more, and you don't want to do that.
And everybody's watching.
Yeah.
You know, we got monitors everywhere. The director's got a monitor. The gaffer's got a monitor. Producer's got a monitor.
Yeah.
Two 27-inch monitors. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're like they can see what
Yeah.
you're doing. So I
Absolutely.
mean, it's a lot of pressure, but like I said, it's also fun. You know, if you enjoy
Yeah.
it, I think everything in the video industry is hard. I think
Yeah.
it just comes down to is if you like it, then it's not hard.
Exactly.
You know, kind of like what we do. I'm like, yeah, it's very hard, but technically it's not hard because if
Yeah.
you do it, if you love it, then it's like, oh, it's just something I enjoy.
And I do
it doesn't
love
feel
it.
like it.
I
yeah.
do love it. I really, really love it. And it's also, it's very dependent on the people you work with.
Yeah.
People make the project. I mean, you probably know this just as well as
Mm-hmm.
I do. Like people are just so important, and the people you work with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is just that makes the project. So sometimes I'll be working on a commercial with a DP. They didn't come up in camera. They came up in lighting or something. They've never been in AC. Maybe they got a break where they took the fast lane to being a DP, and that's great. Nothing against them, but they don't exactly understand the struggle of pulling focus. So they're gonna open up to
Yeah.
1.4. They're gonna do a shot, running after somebody, and I may miss it, which happens.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna like that.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "What's this?" No, absolutely, and that is the part of
Yeah.
learning. I've had obviously, like I said, I do smaller gigs. Mine are like 50 people or less. Typically, 5 to 10 people is the common thing I do. And we have this happen a lot on the other side where it's like I'll hire DPs or I'll work with other DPs and they have zero knowledge of lighting, and it's like. I get it. You don't need to know obviously every fixture and what it does and where
Yeah.
it goes, but at the end of the day, you are the head of the department.
Yeah.
Not the gaffer. You got to be able to communicate with the gaffer, and where they just leave it like, oh yeah, you do your thing, and it's like, no, and then be like, this gaffer wasn't great, and it's like, come on, no, you didn't even talk to the guy or give him your vision or anything. You don't have to know specific. Like you can say, I want some light there or something. I don't know, but I have noticed this, and it's usually like you said, it's people who skip that whole. I don't know. They went from college, let's say,
Yeah.
or whatever, or starting out, and then just quickly to a bigger site, which is good. I mean,
Yeah.
career progress is awesome.
Absolutely.
But then, like you said, that they skip the steps to be a great DP, and that's why they can end up struggling. Because they're like, they don't know how to
Yeah.
work with their first AC or a gaffer or a grip or whatever. Their team that's under them, right?
Yeah, and it happens frequently. They just haven't walked a day in my shoes, and that's fine. They don't have to be an AC, but you have to understand how to treat your people and how to talk to them, because it's not gonna make, if you come over and you scold me for not getting that really difficult shot on the first try, it's not gonna make me get it on the second try.
Yeah,
It's
it's only putting more pressure on you.
yeah,
right?
yeah. So, but luckily, I've gotten very lucky with this. I work with a lot of DPs who have come from camera, or they understand exactly what I do, exactly the struggle. And if I miss a shot like that, I just go up to them and I say, I need one more, and they give me one more. And luckily, that's the workflow that I really appreciate.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to work as a team, especially on a difficult shot. Man.
Yeah.
Like they gotta fully understand that you're not a miracle worker. You're really good at what you do, but that's kind of the limit. Like I said, because I've been in the situation where I'm like, like I have to kind of not be mad at the people pulling focus for me, because at the end of the task that we're giving them is very difficult. Which do you have any? So in your experience, what are the more common cameras that you're seeing in productions nowadays? Let's not go, because things change so fast in our industry. Let's talk this year, 2025. What's the most common cameras you're seeing on set?
I'll give you the top 3.
Yeah.
So it's the RED Komodo.
Okay.
That is a camera used on a lot of sets because it's so versatile. It's so small. It's a great B cam. the Red Raptor,
Mhm.
which is, I love the Red Raptor. I have some problems with the Red Raptor, but I really love that camera. And that camera is used on a lot of sets because Red is getting really close to the color science of ARRI, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think the Red Raptor looks great. I think a lot of other
You're
people
talking about
think
the
so.
original variants, not the new X variants.
I've seen that one on set too.
Yeah.
I am talking about the original.
Yeah, those are more common. Okay.
Yeah, the Red Raptor, and then of course any ARRI camera. So I guess the third one is kind of
Yeah.
a few,
What would you say
but
would be the ratio between Red and ARRI? What do you see more? Like you could say 70% ARRI, 30% Red, or 70% Red, 30% ARRI. What are you seeing?
I'd say 70-30 ARRI. Yeah,
So 70 ARRI is still more than 30s Red.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's great to know perspective because mine, and like I said again, I don't do narratives, so I know it's a different market. But like again, I say I don't do narratives. I'll end up DPing a few randomly here and there. But normally I don't. And so in my world, I've done one commercial this whole year that uses a V Raptor.
Yeah.
And we had a Komodo as a B cam. But that was only because it was virtual production and sync is easy on those global shutters.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's been all ARRI, so it's not Red's been less common. So it's good to know that at least in the narrative world,
Yeah.
they're still using Red cameras.
They are. Red is used. I mean, I've been on so many movies with Red cameras.
No Venice. I know Venice is kind of popular.
Yeah, Venice. I love the Venice. I've just worked with it less.
Yeah,
And
so
really. Yeah,
not
just
around what jobs that you.
the jobs that I've done. I've just worked with.
So
the
it's
Venice
you would say
less.
Red and ARRI would be
Red and
common.
ARRI, yeah.
That's and that's good to know for people because I think the other thing is just go familiarize. Because wouldn't you say if somebody's like, oh, I just want to be a first AC, and it's like, how do I go? And I'm like, just go handle these cameras.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. So being a first AC is a lot of knowledge. It really truly is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's like you're looked upon to know everything, all these settings of every single camera. I don't know every setting of every single camera. So as a first AC, you're always learning. You're always a student. I'm always a student. If I get on a job and they're like, and this happened recently, I was on a movie back in April, May, and the A cam was the ARRI A35. Love that camera. I was like, yes, one of my favorite cameras. The B cam was the Ronin 4D. I've never worked on a job with the Ronin 4D, and I've
really?
always wanted to. So I was excited, but I was also like, I've never worked with this camera. And as a first AC, I'm not going to show up to the prep. Never
We got a
having worked on this
12K
camera.
Ronin 4D, so
Okay.
yeah,
It's an amazing camera.
yeah, it's everywhere. I saw it was on the F1 movie and
Yeah.
everything on the paddock. I know they were. All the advertising was about the Sony cameras that they built for the car, but all the shots that I saw in behind the scenes, they were like, especially the paddock stuff, it was all Ronin 4D.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it does not match the ARRI that easy. I mean, you
No.
can the D-Log or whatever, but yeah, no, it's not the same thing. Yeah,
D-Log is beautiful. Definitely not the same thing, but it is. Wow, it's an amazing B cam, especially if you want something that is just up and running and always there. I mean, the camera's like it's everything. The camera's like everything. It blows my mind how just put together the camera is. You take it out of the case, it's ready. You put the battery on, you put the media in, it's ready. And it is a cinema level quality camera, and it has just so much capability. There are a few bugs that they definitely have to work out. There are a few quirks that me as an AC, like it makes my job more difficult, but for the most part, love that camera. But getting back to what I was saying, like, so, I'm not going to show up to the prep never having used this camera. Like, I don't know how to do anything on this camera. So as a first AC, always a student, camera technology, always evolving. I wanted to go get my hands on this camera. So I immediately started looking for people in the area who owned the camera. And I could not find any rental houses that had one. And I think Flowcam actually recently got one. But at the time, a friend recommended me to their friend who had a Ronin 4D. And so I hit him up. I'm like, can I take you out to lunch? Can I use this camera? Can I like learn it? And for 2 hours, I sat there with the camera and I just kind of explored every button, every menu function, and I just committed it to memory. And that's what it is.
the thing I don't like about Ronin 4D. You can't change most of the buttons. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, why? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, they'll learn. I guess that was their first cinema camera. But so yeah, the good thing though is once you learn it, it is there because, like I say, you can't change half the buttons to anything else. So.
Yeah.
What do you think about that camera?
No, I really love that camera. I think it is so capable. I think the Z-axis, like part of the gimbal, game changer.
Yeah.
And the battery life, really, really good. The quality of the footage, beautiful. I really like D-Log.
Did you not find it heavier? So here's my thing, and then maybe just I think an inherent issue with the just learning a new camera. So I can lift a heavier camera and it's handheld or shoulder, and it's like fine because I'm used to it. But for some reason, every time on the Ronin 4D, I go with the 4. It's fine when you're locked in, 3-axis, whatever. It works, I think, like any other camera. But as soon as you go Z-axis, I feel like the camera's fighting you. I don't know. Every time, I feel like it feels heavier than even bigger cameras than that. So that's been like my biggest issue with the Ronin 4D. Is like, sure, it's great. And like, it's like, oh, we need the 4th axis. We're going to do a walk and talk or whatever. And every time I feel like the camera is just fighting against you. I don't know. Maybe... No, you didn't feel that, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like it feels heavier than it actually is. Because as soon as I lock it, right, it feels, oh, this is easy. But as soon as I'm turning forward, and it's like 4th axis, and it's like, whoa. Like, I don't know. And I think it's because of the movement or whatever, but it feels so heavy. Like 5 minutes later, I still remember Mario was on a shoot. Yeah. And I could see him. Like, so I'm like, deep non-operating DP because I think it was B-roll sections. We had interview going and B-roll going, and so he was on the Ronin 4D, and like I could see in his eye, like because it's like documentary-ish shit, right? So there's no cut that you're just capturing, and I could see in his eye, I'm like he's struggling to pick this. Do you remember that, Mario?
Yeah, I do remember.
How hard was it on your arms?
It was hard. I mean, and it also was. Maybe because it was the first time for me using it in like a real shoot. So yeah, it was hard, but I do think that it's a cool camera. It's very flexible, very dynamic for sure.
It's definitely, it's not a camera for everything. Yeah. It's a specialty camera. Yeah. And I would not say use that camera as your unless you're trying to achieve something like Adolescence. Adolescence was shot completely on the Ronin 4D, which makes sense because it's lenses, so versatile. The transmission is so good. It goes so far. Like you can do so many things with that camera with movement, but on a movie, if you're like in a studio setting, you're getting this precise push and shot. Like that's not the camera for you, So it's definitely like it's like everything. It's case dependent. Yeah. But for what it is, I love it. And yes, when you turn on the Z-axis, it gets really heavy.
You need an easy rig. That was like my final thing to him. I was like, okay, so Ronin 4D means we have to put our easy rig into the bundle or whatever. We're using it. And I feel like that would be my only feedback to DJI. Not that they're listening to this, but it'd be like, if they can make the same camera, I know people would want 1,000 other things, and just make the weight half. I think that would come in so much handy because, like I said, it feels double the weight. So if it was half the weight, maybe it'll be the right amount of weight that I need. I don't know. That'd be the thing I would like, or somehow reduce that drag. I don't know the word for it, but you know what I mean. Like it feels heavier than it needs to.
Well, the reason why the weight increases when you turn on the Z-axis, and I'm gonna get a little technical here, is because when you turn on the Z-axis, the camera, it feels like it's fighting you. It's counteracting your motions on a vertical scale. So the camera is literally that motor is pushing your camera down sometimes. And then sometimes it's pushing it up. So that vertical motion is changing the center of gravity on that camera. And so it's very unique. I've never seen anything like it before, and it's a kind of a weird feeling when you're using it. But also, you need to make sure not to cover the sensor on the bottom because then it won't know where it is.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't do that either.
Then it's really fighting you.
Like I said, a good camera, but it's also 4 years old, so hopefully DJI has something up their sleeves.
For sure.
And that would be my only main gripe with it, because I do really like the image and the, like you said, the transmission and all of that. Like you said, that was my biggest thing, operating it. I was like, this does not need to feel this heavy. I get it. Like you said, there's a technicality behind it, so maybe they can just make the overall camera lighter, so the how much it's fighting against you is less in general. But that's pretty cool to know that you guys were able to use an ARRI and a Ronin 4D. Which one was it? Was it the 12K or the 6K?
It was the 12K.
So at least that sensor is so much dynamic range.
It is
too.
Yeah,
so
it's beautiful.
That's pretty cool. So look. Coming back to that perspective, you can just go out, find people in your network, hit them up, buy them lunch, or just rent it for a day, and even if somebody's not in your network, because at the end of the day, all you need to do is just familiarize with their camera. You don't have to go buy it. A lot of people just go, I can't own an ARRI. You don't have to. I don't own an ARRI. And I'm buying. Once bought it like in the beginning of my company. I was like, oh, we have to own the ARRI. It's the silly thing you do. At that time, we had the minis were the big thing, right? So I bought one, and then I quickly realized, what am I doing? I'm using this a few times a year. This is a terrible investment, and unless you're in a big rental market, you can put it with a rental house or whatever, consign it. It makes no sense, is what I'm saying. For most people, unless you have the ability to make money from it when you're not using it, I think cameras are a rental thing. But tell me, if most people inherently at least go like, I have to buy it.
No.
And you don't, especially with these higher end cameras. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Like if you want to be a first AC, if you want to work in the camera department and you want to learn all these things, and this goes for lighting too. If you want to work in lighting, you don't have to buy it. I mean, I can't speak for other places, but in Orlando, we have rental houses. Yeah. We have multiple camera rental houses, multiple G&E rental houses. I mean, first unit, MBS on the G&E side, camera, A camera, flow cam. Like these are places that, the people that work there, they are very understanding of, people starting out, and they want to help people. They do. And I know this because I mean, I worked at A Camera for over a year, and the owners are so nice, and everyone I worked with there is, so nice, and just like, it's a great environment. They all want to help people. And if someone would call in, if we'd get a phone call, which would happen quite frequently, they'd be like, I just graduated. I'm, looking to get some experience with the gear. I'd love to get my hands on it. We would say absolutely.
Yeah,
like,
come on by. Yeah,
come on by. We'll help you set up the camera, and we'll show you around and give you a tour of the place. And it was, that's great. Like that is a thing that you can do. That is a great way to get started.
Yeah, especially on bigger projects. I've done that where if you obviously it has to be a decent size, rental house, but you can go and be like, hey, I'm testing some lenses.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna rent, this camera with you, but I want to test lenses. They'll let you, and most places have like focus charts or whatever. So, you can show up, and especially if you're planning to already rent from them, they don't mind. And that can be easy because as a DP or as a producer, director, whatever, I'm not going to rent very expensive lens sets just for a test first, right? Because I don't know. So it's like very easy to show up, put lenses in, take some test shots right there. You don't have to leave, their testing area.
Yeah.
And then you can quickly be like, oh, this set aligns better. You rent it. Good for them because they're making their rental money, and good for me because I didn't have to rent the other sets that we didn't end up renting. So that is actually, it's good to build a relationship with your common guess rental houses where you are. Now, I do hear rental houses are struggling because again, market is just down in general, and less productions are. And tell me if you've noticed this. I saw a huge shift 2 years ago, even though I know these FX3s and 6s have been out for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
The shift, I think, kind of happened around that, I would say, 2-year-ish mark, where everything just became FX6 and FX3, especially, not again the narrative market, but most of the industry, like that I was dealing with, at least, I'm talking decent sized commercials to lower. And it was just like, it just reduced the rental, where we would normally even go for a rental camera because there was nothing, good enough that we could just buy, where it was like, yeah, I can have 2, 3, 4 sitting in my van or whatever, where it didn't make sense to rent them. Is what I'm saying. So I don't know if that's when you worked there or not, but what's your experience been? Do you feel like it's hurting them because the cheaper cameras are so much better?
I think that there's definitely still a very large need for cinema quality rentals. Like the rental houses, A-Cam, Flow Cam, those are the Orlando cinema rental houses. They rent high-end cinema quality gear. So ARRI stuff, RED stuff. They do have Sony stuff. They have the Venice, and they have FX6s and FX3s. And I think there's still a very large need for those bigger cameras, those pricier rentals, but I do see what you're saying, and I have seen a significant slowdown in the rental of those, more expensive, higher end cameras. FX3s, FX6s are incredibly capable. I mean, I own an FX3 myself, and I love it. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. The functionality is amazing. It has shutter angle. I mean, it can shoot a movie.
It has a big 6 menu now. I don't know if you've tried that upgrade yet, right?
Yeah.
And it's not even, to me, like I said, there's even cheaper cameras that may look better than FX3 even. So it's not even about and yes, they look nice. I agree with
Yeah.
you totally. But I'm saying there's even cheaper cameras that look better. It's just you know how the industry works, right? When something becomes the standard, they don't care. Oh, this Blackmagic or this Panasonic or whatever is better
Yeah.
image quality. It's just like we want FX6, we want 6, or we want 3 FX3s. You know, that's the type of at least requests I get. And I get it, narrative is different. It's always been ARRI. Even for me higher end, it's still ARRI. So I'm not saying ARRI cameras are going anywhere, but I'm saying these businesses have to be struggling because, you know, it's not as high of a demand, I'm saying,
No.
than it was, right?
No,
It's
the
less,
demand
yeah.
has decreased.
Yeah.
There are commercials that are being made for cheaper with less people with cheaper cameras and cheaper lenses.
Yeah.
And they still look great.
Yeah.
And that is just that's just the path that technology usually takes. It gets more accessible, it gets cheaper, and most of all, it gets better. And cameras are no exception to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cameras every year get cheaper, get better, get more accessible.
Exactly. And you know, I showed you my lenses too. If you remember the RLs that I showed you, same thing. I mean, my opinion changed. And like I said, I'm not even as hands-on as you are because I don't work in a rental house. I mean, this kind of feels like a tiny one, but you know what I mean? But
sure.
like for me, it was always like I get the native glass, whatever brand, because you know, I change cameras, whatever the demand is. The only reason I'm a Sony, I've said this before, is because people are asking me for Sony.
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying outside of native, I would never buy glass. And so I've had people ask like, hey, what do you think about all these Chinese? And I used to always be like, sure, if I need to rent one for a look, I would, but they're not there, you know?
Yeah.
But this year,
And they
it's
weren't
changed.
there.
Yeah, they weren't. And now, when I bought these RLs, I was just like, holy crap.
It's insane.
They are actually good. It
is amazing.
And how cheap they were. Like I said,
Yeah.
you couldn't buy, you know, one good Cook lens for what I bought the whole set for.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even cheaper. So it's obviously, again, they're not replacing. I don't think I showed you. I was like, they're not replacing Signature Primes or Cooks or Zeiss or whatever anytime soon. But for what they are, you know, you can actually own it. And now again, you don't have to go rent something.
And it's becoming accessible to like regular people.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It's crazy.
Anyone can buy this set. And like I said, again, I get it. 10,000 for once, because you know it comes in 2 sets, so 10 for each, so 20 for the whole 10 lens set. I get it. It's still a lot of money, but compared to a real legit industry standard lens set, that's nothing. That's cheaper than one lens usually in those sets. So ARRI announced those Enzos, and I was like so intrigued by them. So I was like, ooh, maybe this is first ARRI set I can acquire. And I looked at the price. I was like, no. It was like 27 or 28, I think.
I mean,
or something like that grand a lens. And I'm like, no, I can't justify, you know, using that enough. And like I said, again, I don't think our rental market is huge. It's decent, but it's not huge enough where I'd be renting these Enzos out all the time. So I had to like calm myself down. No.
Yeah.
Let's just not think about that. Let's lead a camera to maybe invest in a set, and I can rent it if I ever needed it. But what do you think about them? I know we didn't mount it on a camera or anything.
No,
but have you had a chance to like? I mean, you did have a chance to at least feel it or whatever. Yeah. What's your opinion?
You know, it feels really high quality, and it's just the way it looks. I mean, clearly they've looked at like Supreme Primes and Signature Primes, and they're like, this is the model. We got to go off of this. This is what like people use. This is what people shoot the movies with. This is what we should make our lenses look like. And they look a lot like them.
Yeah.
I mean, the markings, you know, like just the focus markings, the iris markings, like it
And
just
the
looks
dampening
like
too,
one.
right?
The
Like,
dampening, it's so smooth.
I still remember 4 years ago, the first time I ever heard of these, and I was like, I would never buy this because it was a Cata. No, not Cata. It was like Pictor or something. And I genuinely, I was like, it felt like crunchy. I don't know the right way I could say. I was like moving the, you know, the iris, and I was like, this doesn't feel good. Like, and then I looked at the image. I was like, this is just like a vintage glass. I don't know. I didn't get the hype. And then here I am, like literally going, wow.
Yes.
I one of the best investments I made this year. That's why we've talked about it so much in this podcast. It's like the industry is changing, and then if these companies in 4 years or 5 years have come here from what they were making.
Yeah.
And not saying, again, the pictures weren't good. I'm just saying that was their first go at it or whatever, right? But it was nowhere remotely close to where I would use it on a project. And like I said, I'm not even making a movie here. So for me to hear be like, oh, wow, there's multiple times now where I am not going out, where I would have in the
Yeah.
past rented a set of lenses for a decent sized project. That was just a given where I'm like, okay, I have a set. So we bring these on. So it's like reducing costs for me, I guess, in a way, right? So it is technically making me money.
Yeah.
And I can also go charge my clients like, hey, we need a cinema set of lenses. Here's whatever, whether it's built in or additional. It's actually making me money.
Yeah.
In the past, it was an expense. So, industry's kind of, I'm saying
It's changing
it's
in
changing,
big ways. Yeah, DZO's doing great stuff. Lau is doing great stuff.
A Nisi too. I don't know if you've
Nisi,
seen
yes,
the
absolutely.
Aureus and the So it's crazy, and then this makes you wonder, where we will be in 10 years, 20 years. Like for example, for me, one of my favorite things is the Aleph. The Alexa, the sensor.
Yes.
That's in the Mini and the Mini Aleph, and I know I don't use the 35 as much, but that sensor is really nice too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, sure, these cameras are inaccessible right now. They're, even the used ones are like 30, 50, 60 grand, right? But like, give it 5 years, give it 7 years. Not only use these cameras, but if an FX3 5 years ago when it launched, it's still used today.
Yeah.
What would a hypothetical, I don't know, FX4, FX5, whatever the let's say 2 generations ahead of that is? I don't know where the industry is
It's just
going,
gonna
but
keep
if
getting
it's going to
better.
be better than the I know ARRI will have obviously their version because of whatever they make.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine these big brands surviving unless they do something crazy, because
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, people will continue making movies because that's not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
But it's just things are becoming more accessible, and it can only go, at least that's my opinion, it can go 2 ways. Either all the content becomes trash because everyone has these, like everything just
Yeah.
looks good. So it's like you don't have any appreciation for high quality art, or it's the other way around, that it's so much trash out there that, this is so much more now in demand because it's the, it's a skill that makes
Yeah.
it good, not the equipment, right?
Yeah. I mean, content. Oof. That's a buzzword. But yeah, no, content is just like, to me, content is like the saturation of the video market. Like, it's becoming so saturated because from all angles, people are making videos in all different forms, and all over social media. Social media is huge, and so like good content is just really being diluted.
Yeah.
And it's just only going to get further diluted, because cameras are only going to get better. It's only going to get more accessible, lenses too. And so people are going to keep making videos. There will be a lot of trash out there. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to creativity and just like what it starts as, the story.
Yeah.
And to make something undeniable, something special, is really what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what separates it, because I have this happen a lot. So, obviously I was really young in the 90s, so I didn't see some of the movies, obviously, because I was a kid.
Yeah.
But now I sometimes will go back and see, oh, this was a big movie, you got to see it. And I'll watch a movie. And I'll genuinely, obviously, be watching the movie, like you said, for the story.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible movie. But then, force of habit, DP, producer, director, I'm just like, holy crap, that's like fully blown out. This isn't lit well, and I see movies and I'm like, holy crap, I could take my phone and shoot something better than that. So, but like you said, those movies are still watchable. I'm watching it not because cinematography wise or whatever, right? They're incredible or whatever. Clearly, we've come a long way, but the story makes it still watchable. Like you still go, I'm saying, consume art, not because it was shot on this camera or that. You consume it because the story still stands 20, 30, 40 years later, right?
Absolutely. You're not interested in going to see a movie because of what camera it's shot with.
Exactly. Because well, that happened with The Creator. That's the only reason I watched that movie. Everyone's like, you have to see it. Because it's the cameras you have at your home, and I was so hyped, and I was like, okay. I mean, I don't want to. The movie was good, but you know what I mean. Like, it wasn't.
The movie was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like. It wasn't like. You know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. It's such a, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of pivoting, but it's a unique perspective as a first AC because I live in a world surrounded by gear. My job is to know the gear and the intricacies of it. So I am a gearhead, and I focus very heavily on the equipment that I'm using. But like I said, I got into the film industry because I love movies. And so in the back of my mind on every job, I'm always just always thinking about the story. I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
about the movie and I'm trying to understand it and understand what I'm shooting. I don't want to just be working on something that I don't get. Like I don't want to be blindly pulling focus on this scene that I just don't understand.
Yeah, you don't know what the focal point is. Obviously, they could tell you, but then I don't know. I feel like it'll be more natural if you know
It
what the
is.
feeling is and everything. Yeah, no, I
Absolutely.
totally agree with you. So, talking all this, bringing it full circle, would you suggest new people to get into the industry, like become first ACs?
It's such a cool job, honestly. And when, when you're having a good day and the crew is working well together and all things are falling into place and the gear is behaving, it's a really wonderful feeling. So yes, I would absolutely recommend it. I really like my job, and I think that working with the camera, you're on the front lines, and it's really cool too. Like there's the cool factor.
Yeah,
of it.
exactly. Because you are making the movies,
Yeah.
And then and like you said, it is not one of those roles where you are 10 layers behind the process. You are
Yeah.
in the process. You're with the device that's telling the story, and I think it's incredible. And especially, what I also like is for somebody wanting to get into it. It's in my opinion, a low investment career because yes, you need to know about all the cameras. It's not
Yeah.
easy, like you already said, but you don't have to buy these cameras. You can go to rental houses or your school or your network or whatever.
Yeah.
You just have to learn these cameras. You don't have to own the cameras. So relatively, low investment. If anything, you're buying your own, some accessories, obviously,
Yeah.
maybe a toolkit, maybe a focus pulling device or whatever. But generally, you can rent those too, right? Would you buy a Nucleus M, or what would you say investment wise people
So
need to buy? Yeah.
not high.
Yeah.
You're right. And especially like starting out, you really film industry and what you do, like running a production company, network is everything.
Yeah.
And so if you build your network, I feel like everything else comes. So if you build your network and you want to be a first AC, you are building your network with people who are better than you, people who do this. You want to, know other first ACs, and especially people who own gear, because then starting out, you are not buying that gear. You can either borrow or rent from them. And that's really great. That's honestly, it helped me a ton when I started being able, I knew people who like had focus monitors, and I said, like, I'm doing this job, like, can I rent this from you for this price, like this monitor? And I didn't own a monitor at first, or like a rolling stand, or a fizz system. And so favors is really what it came from the network. And so building your network is so important. And then when you are when you're getting into the groove and you're starting to get jobs and people are starting to know your name, that's when you start moving up. And so what I bought, I mean, my main tools that I use all the time are, yes, you want a kit with like screwdrivers and Allen keys, and you want like a technician's kit. Just like if you were an electrician or someone in construction, you want tools. These
Yeah.
are the tools to do your job.
Make sure you have enough limo cables.
Absolutely, extra cables,
Yeah.
big thing, because they never have
yeah.
enough in the kit.
Exactly.
So rods. You want extra rods. You want extra cables. So so power cables, different SDI cables, different configurations. Right
Splitter,
angle,
whatever, just
splitter,
random.
Yeah.
But I think this comes. Tell me if I don't think you can copy anyone because it comes from time, right? You learn
Yeah.
you need something.
You
and you're
learn
like,
what you
"Oh,
need."
so I gotta have this, and then I think you slowly build this, right? Like as you go, right? Because you figure out what you need and you add to it. Your kit,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And then you get to a point where like you just always have something for the job, which is a great feeling. They're like, we need this specific cable. It didn't come in the package. I have it in my kit. And organization is key. I organize all my cables. I had like extra screws, extra, support arms for the monitors, cleaning materials. Like it's all organized. And
Buy your Kimtech wipes.
Kimtech wipes, of course. And then the more expensive, the larger investments is going to be like a focus monitor, a fizz system. I use a Nucleus. I use a Nucleus because I think it is an incredible tool for the price, and also because if I'm
the
going
M2, have you seen that? That looks
it's
so great.
unbelievable.
Yeah. I was like, wow. I mean, I'm not even a first AC, and I was
Yeah.
like, this is. And I mean, again, we don't buy as expensive, obviously, for systems, but I have the Nano 2, and that's so incredible. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. I mean, that was only like $250.
Yeah, it's just like
crazy what you
another-
can buy.
It's
yeah.
amazing. Another Chinese company that's just like knocking out of the park with these.
Yeah, exactly.
These
Oh, have you
lower
seen
priced-
that? So I don't know. So this comes out obviously later. So I don't know if it's come out by now, but I saw something from Tilta, same company that makes the M and the Nano. They're coming out with like an autofocus system,
I saw that.
and it's not what I thought it was. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, they're competing with DJI, it's LiDAR, but no, they're saying, and again, this is not out yet. So when we're recording this, but
Yeah.
it's supposed to be those adapters. You go from your PL to E or PL to L, whatever, and it's supposed to be, the regular, what do you call it, like. The regular autofocus system, that the camera uses, and it
Yeah.
somehow will use the nucleus M motor to then autofocus and
It
a
literally
Cinelens.
taps into
Yeah.
the camera's data.
Yeah, exactly.
amazing.
And I'm like, I have no idea how. Obviously, this is again not out yet, so we haven't tested it. But I was just like thinking about it. It's like, huh? And this is not LiDAR, so it won't have those issues that the DJI LiDAR
Yeah.
has, because it can only go so far out. It can only go so far. It has very. It's not the 1,000 point whatever. It's only like 2 points. So it's very limiting. I'm saying. So this may be a really cool product, and again, another Chinese company just
Yeah.
killing it out.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and like I said, I resisted for a while buying,
Yeah.
like I said, a Focus 10, because I had the original Nucleus M, and not M, the Nano, and we didn't use it that much. But the Nano 2, as soon as I opened, I was like, holy, this
Huge
feels like a
advancements.
high quality product.
Yeah.
It does not feel like a $250 product.
Yeah, I love my Nucleus. It's honestly like one of the pieces of gear, and I work with so many different pieces of gear, but it's one of those pieces of gear that just I never have problems with. It's amazing how seamless it is. And so it's great. And then when I get on, larger budget shows, at that point I don't
You're
need
expected
to
to have an
buy.
RE, right? Because that's the standard, I think, on larger productions.
yeah,
that's
like
what
an
I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, I'm not in your side yet, but I see what my focus puller is using. So it's usually what, like I've seen RE is what I'm saying. The common
WCU
stuff.
or
Yeah,
High
yeah,
Five,
yeah.
The High Five is definitely like the High
So
Five.
those I'm
amazing.
guessing are rental things, right? Because you're not
Those are
probably
rental
gonna
things.
own
Oh,
that expensive
insanely.
system. Yeah.
Or the Preston.
Yeah.
The Preston is what I'm using on my show right now, which is the Preston is amazing. I love Preston. But yeah, so like when you get on these bigger shows, they'll rent you the better fizz systems.
Exactly.
Because
Have you used the one? Sorry, the
fine.
one where it's from Teradek or Vitech, whatever, the company that owns all these companies,
Mm-hmm.
but where it integrates with the small HD monitor, so you can see your marks. Or
That's
whatever.
actually Teradek system.
Okay, yeah.
Teradek has
exactly.
a fizz system. Teradek has an amazing system. I love their system. I've used it a few times. It does integrate with the small HD, and you could see your focus marks on
Yeah,
the side.
uh-huh.
It's like semi-transparent. It's really cool. It's a great tool. So that's another, like, there's a lot of great players out there for sure. But yeah, so the Nucleus is limiting, but it's not something that I would like you were saying, you don't need to buy this gear. Like if you get on a show, they'll rent it for you. And then like the Nucleus is an $1,100 investment.
Yeah.
That's a small investment in the grand
Compared to
scheme of things.
if you get into this, I know. And again, if you're starting out, these numbers may seem high, but when you're a professional, it's not. I mean, you go try be a, I don't know, go into lumber. I'm saying making house, I don't know, cutting wood or whatever. Like just a Milwaukee saw is like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So I'm saying when you buy professional tools, they're expensive. So in our industry, $1,100 is actually very low.
Yes.
And how high quality the product
So
is.
high quality.
And like you said, I think that's the incredible perspective here. That hey, this is a good tool. It'll handle all the jobs where you can be the kit, your kit fee.
Yeah.
But if it's bigger than that, then the production will just rent it for you.
Exactly. And then, on bigger productions like that, you could, then you could rent like a rangefinder or something like that, which makes your job easier. So, it's a low investment. It really is. And so you buy like a fizz system, you buy a monitor. I started out with a small HD Indy 7, which again, if you're starting out, seems expensive. It was $1,100. But to me, that was a small investment.
Yeah.
And it just made my life easier. I knew I was using something that would not go down. I mean, sometimes they do, but small HD has
They get
a
very
really
hot,
great
but
reputation.
they're really good. I have a bunch of
Yes.
Cine 7s and they're incredible. Other than them getting really hot, they have never once turned off. That's what I'm amazed by. See, this is the opposite of buying high quality gear. Sometimes they're so hot, I'm like I think they would explode. But we're out in Florida heat and it's hot. And I'm saying things that how many times I've had gimbals or other thing literally say overheating, like turning off. Never had a small HD monitor, no matter how hot it
No,
is,
they're
ever
amazing.
turn off. Yeah.
They
And we
make
have cranked up,
fantastic
on the
products.
highest, brightness on outside or whatever. Yeah. So, and that's the other thing I tell people, like, buy what's the industry standard. If you buy a Nucleus M or M2 now, or whatever the current gen is, and then you buy a small HD, you belong. You know, it's also not like nothing stops you from buying something different, but then the issue also is that you show up on set, then it's like, you don't fit. Nobody understands the gear. You have somebody else working with you, or like you said, in another cam department. I don't know. It's just you don't fit. So buying right once, especially cheaper compared to, again, most departments to get into, I think it's good to buy the right one time, because then you have to keep buying it. Yeah,
but especially as an AC, because the job is very fast paced. And like I said, cameras always expected to be ready first. You really don't want your gear to hold you up.
Yeah.
So think about it like this. How much money is it going to cost you to bring a lower quality monitor on set? Say that monitor fails and then you can't see the image. And if you're not a pro with decades of experience, you can't pull by eye. And so that monitor fails and then you lose that job, or at least they don't call you back again. You lost that avenue of revenue.
And all the network that you built there.
Exactly.
Which is way bigger loss than the one job, right?
Exactly.
So let's take this next level. Obviously, if somebody is interested, seems like they want to do this, they love the camera, the investment is low, so perfect thing to get into. Obviously, we'll get to networking, which I think is the most important thing. But like, what can they expect to make? What is, and I get it, different sizes of projects, obviously union, non-union, but just so people have an idea.
For sure. It's a very wide range. It's a spectrum, but it's you can make a lot of money as a first AC, and there are career ACs in Orlando who work all the time and they make a really good living. And so it definitely depends on the project, but let's see. So, if you're working on an indie film, indie and it has a distribution plan, even if it doesn't have a distribution plan, say it's like going to Hallmark, Lifetime, even Netflix, movies like that, you can expect to make anywhere from as low as $250 base rate to as high as, I'd say, $500.
Okay. And then you'd add a kit fee on top of that, right?
Then you add a kit fee for your equipment, which helps.
Which would be what? Like, for some, obviously you would have a much lower kit on that rate. So what would you say a kit fee would be? A couple $100 or?
Sure. Yeah.
To start out.
I always gauge it based on the client, and if I know, I always like, if I know that this is a larger production, then I will tend to charge on the higher side, because that is what my gear is worth. I'm not overcharging them. I'm trying to charge closer to the rate. So it depends on what gear you have. I personally run with a small HD 703 ultra bright. I run with a 7-inch monitor instead of a 13-inch because I love to be portable, and I'm fine pulling on 7 inches. And so for that, I would charge usually $100 to $150 for that monitor, which is actually less than you would rent at a rental house here in Orlando. And then, my fizz system is a Nucleus. It's it's cheaper. It's a cheaper product. It's on the lower end of fizz systems. For something like that, $75 a day. And so, but that extra money really helps. It's really nice.
Especially on a lower job where you're being paid $250 a day. That $200 extra can, bring you closer to that. $400, $450 a day, which is good. And then on the higher side, that can get you to that $750, $800 days, right?
Absolutely.
Which is pretty good. And then let's go to the higher side. Sure. What would be that range?
So on commercials are always going to pay more than these indie movies. And again, I say indie movies, we're not talking about studio movies. That's not something I've dipped my toes into.
Yeah, and we're not. Yeah. This is too high end if you're watching.
For sure. But yes, commercials. So commercials as an AC, typical rate, what I charge would be $750 a day. Yeah. So $750 is pretty standard for first ACs in Orlando, at least. And so then on top of that, you would add your kit fee. Some commercials will pay more. A lot of times it's a given rate. This is what they give you. It can be negotiated, but this is what they're offering. Sometimes they'll ask me to name my rate, and like I said, 750 is my normal rate. But sometimes it's a given rate, and it could be more than 750. Sometimes it's 800.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 900. So it really could pay very well, and that's for one day. And then, you know, on top of that, you add your kit fee, and as a first AC, you could be walking out of a single day with over $1,000. And some of these career ACs here in Orlando, they bring their their ARRI High 5, they bring their 13-inch, they bring their carts, multiple carts, van, they bring a lot of gear to the job. They're walking out of here with more than 1,500.
Yeah.
And
that's what the value of the gear is, right? Because you can keep bumping up the rate. Yeah.
Absolutely. But a base rate as a first AC on a commercial, that is $750, $800. Usually commercials are 8 to 10 hours. You can make a great living and you're not killing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty good living, you know, especially, in this field where starving artists is a real thing. And like I said, you're actually on cool sets doing cool things. So I think that's pretty good. Like I said, I like the career. I think what you're doing is incredibly important on set. I'm saying for a first AC and, you in general. But then also the investment is low comparatively.
Yeah.
I always have to say that because I get it. Still high, but comparatively low. And I think what comes down to is just networking, right? They have to know you to bring you on set. Because this is the biggest thing. Let's say tomorrow you're like, okay, parents, I'm not going to school. I'm gonna save the money, right? I'll learn the skills. You buy the nucleus, and you buy your monitor, you buy all the accessories or whatever, right? You're all set. The thing is, the jobs aren't coming because if they don't know you're out there, right?
Yeah.
And what you can do and all that, then it doesn't matter. The gear is just completely off the thing. So I think to me, and that's similar in I think any field in video production, they have to first even consider you. Forget getting the job. And they cannot consider you if they don't know you. So what would you suggest to someone? Like, how do you go out and build that network, which is the critical thing, right? You would agree?
Network is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, your network is your whole world. And so how I did it, because I really started, I started as a first AC. And I didn't take that typical ladder moving up as a PA, maybe a utility, second AC up to first AC. Of course, I've second AC'd a lot, but most of my credits are first AC. I jumped into it. I told people I was a first AC, and I kind of found myself along the way. And not to say there is a fine line. There's a fine line between going on set completely inexperienced. You don't want to do that. You could damage something. But also going on set, you're like, I don't feel totally confident. And I'm gonna, but I feel confident enough to take this on. There's a fine line there. But how I started, so join Facebook groups. Facebook groups are big. There's a lot of film Facebook groups here. And these companies, they do post job ads in these Facebook groups looking for an AC on the state. At this location. They're not usually the highest paying jobs. Sometimes they are, but they're work. And that's a great way to get started and build your network. And if you go to film school, if you have the money to go to film school and you go to a school like Valencia puts you on set. Valencia will talk to, there will be a production shooting in the area. This is what they say. They're like, we're going to give you our gear to use. And the deal is we give you our gear and you take on some of our students in these roles, these specific roles. And then you actually get to work on real sets with real professionals at Valencia. Yeah. That's an amazing way to build your network. That is if you have money to go to film school. But if not, joining Facebook groups, going to local filmmaker like meetups, just going to local rental houses, traversing rental houses, going there, buying them coffee, using the gear, establishing a connection with the people there. Rental houses, and I know this from experience, they keep lists of people in different roles. If you go in and you build a relationship with that rental house, you build a relationship with the owners, they're going to put you on that list. You're now somebody that they could recommend. You may not be at the top of the list, but you're on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you never know. The thing is, when you're at home, nobody's calling you. Nobody's putting you on a list. Yeah. Nobody finds out about you. So my suggestion is, and that's so crazy because I'm so like forward thinking about technology and everything. But in this way, I'm like, go back old school. You need to be on your feet. This is, in my opinion, and not that you couldn't do networking online. I'm saying, like you said, Facebook groups and stuff. But in an ideal world, use your feet. Like, if you're not walking or, driving there, then you're not, I don't think you're starting, especially if you're new. I'm saying you have no jobs. Like you said, go to your rental house, show them your face, take them to actual coffee. Let them, because it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
When I get emails, and I'm not, saying that that's not the right route, but I get decent emails where it's like, hey, I would love to meet you or whatever. It's like, thank you, maybe, but like, I don't know your personality, or can you hire me or whatever. It's like, I have no idea who you are. You know what I mean? That resume does not help me. I don't care about resume. I want your personality. And that only I can gauge if I meet them in real life.
Absolutely.
And so you have to get yourself out there. You have to say hi. You have to buy them coffee, or just like you said, go to the rental house, test out the gear, build that relationship. And those are so easy things. Low investment, more time, but I think it's right. I don't know. I think it's critical to get your feet, get yourself moving, go out there, just start something. You never know.
100% agree. Absolutely. And like, you really can start in this role from nothing. You don't need to go to film school. I think film school really helps. I'm a big advocate because it gives you a great base of knowledge, and you get to know people, like even your classmates. Your classmates are your network.
They'll call
in film
you.
School.
So if they know,
Absolutely.
especially if you're in school and you're telling from day one, I am a first AC. That's a thing. It can also get you pigeonholed. Somebody like me, like I run a production company, right? I'm a director, producer, DP first. Yes, I'm decent at gaffing and sound and stuff. So what happens is I've noticed that, I do the same thing. If you hire someone and, let's say they hire you as the gaffer, then in their eyes, you're always a gaffer. So you can get pigeonholed. But in specializing, that's an advantage.
Yeah.
So like I said, for me, it would be hurtful because I'm like, no, I'm normally a director, right? I don't want to get pigeonholed into that small role. But for somebody who's like you, who's like, no, I'm a first AC, getting pigeonholed is the perfect thing, because now they associate the word first AC with you. And if anyone, whether they need it, or let's say they're out on another production, they go out, they want to be a gaffer or a DP or whatever.
Yeah.
And the production now needs a first AC. Guess who they're thinking of? Immediately, they're like, Josh, right? Because you were from day one, we're like, no, I'm the first AC. I'm the first AC. So I think that's actually can be very beneficial if you start to, like, from day one, just tell everyone who you are. And then they will never forget you, right?
I completely agree. And actually, I'm really glad you brought that up. Being pigeonholed is a big problem. And this is advice that I would give anybody starting out. Set your intentions. Learn about the roles on set. Learn about what each role is responsible for, what they do, and what interests you, and choose one.
Yeah.
And choose a department, because if you choose multiple, if you're a jack of all trades, you're not going to get hired, or at least you're not going to get hired where you want to, because they don't know what you do.
Exactly.
And then if you want to be someone like a first AC and you take the traditional route, which is fine, start as a PA, move up, that's totally fine. Don't stay as a PA. Be a good PA, but you need to walk this line, because if you're a really good PA and you keep PAing over and over again, and you PA for years, there's nothing wrong with PAing. They're the lifeblood of the production. But if you don't want to be a PA and you keep PAing and you're a really good PA and you're like getting known in the network as a PA, you're now a production assistant.
That is their role,
Yeah, and why would they call you as anything else, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a great PA.
Initiative is a big thing. And I think I found my experience working with people who are green is that there's two type of people. One who take initiative. They'll tell you, but like, yeah, I love doing this, that, or whatever. So you hear it, you connect, like, it's very important to take initiative.
Definitely.
But then there's people who will come, they will do the role great, so they get a PA, they be a swing or whatever, and they'll not once tell me like, yeah, I did this because I want to connect with you, but I'm actually a camera operator or I'm whatever. I have no idea. I've had this happen where I hired a sound guy and he was just like, a year later I find out, he's not a sound guy, because he's like, yeah, I'm good at it, so I did it, but I'm actually this. And I was like, really? And so it took me, and then it took me an effort too. Like, oh, I gotta now start thinking about this guy for camera jobs, because my brain isn't clicking, right? My brain's now stuck. For a year, I've known this guy as the sound guy. So like from day one, I would say take initiative. Even if you're not in the ideal role that you want to be in, you want the people to know. Obviously, I wouldn't say like annoy them, but it's one thing to like, politely be like, oh yeah, absolutely. Especially I do this. So if you ever need this specific role, that's my expertise. I would love to also help you. And
Yeah.
that immediately you connect. Oh, awesome. And then, once they bring you back on, let's say probably second time, another PA role. Now you tell them again, it starts to slowly connect. So there is
Yeah.
a way to not pigeonhole yourself. But that, I think, is entirely on initiative. And if you are the type of personality that you are not going to take initiative, I'm saying that's going to hurt you, I think, right?
I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so it's just like about knowing what you want to do. And that is something that could be learned in film school. That could just be something that you could learn that from YouTube Academy. I mean, YouTube is such an amazing resource these days. But learn about what you want to do and work towards that. And it's okay, PAing. It's totally fine. Just every time you PA, let them know what you actually do. If you want to be in camera, spend time near the camera department. Get to know the people in camera department.
Yeah.
That's what you want to move towards. Tell them that I AC a lot as well. And even if they don't believe you, even if they don't trust you as a first AC, because it takes a lot of trust to be a first AC. That's a big thing. But even if they don't trust you as a first AC, the next production, they'll probably put you on as a camera PA, not just a set PA, a camera PA. And then you work your way up from there.
Yeah.
And so as a first AC, like I started out telling everybody I'm a first AC. Like this is what I do. Like I'm a focus puller. And then when I would tell people that, sometimes they would hire me as a first AC, and then sometimes they would say, "Okay, well we have this gig coming up. Could you second for us?" And I love second ACing. So absolutely, that's one step below first ACing. And then on the next shoot, and this has happened, I'm speaking from experience, on the next shoot after that, they would hire me as a first AC.
Exactly.
It's great.
Because they knew what you are. You're
Yeah.
just changing your role. That's okay. And I think that's the right way, how you approached it. Like, hey, this is what I do, but I'm happy to jump into second, especially if you're a first AC. It should be easy to do second because, you're technically working together, right? So tell people, like, what's the difference between a first AC and a second AC?
Okay, so yeah, they work very closely together and hopefully completely hand in hand, and you should have good relationship with your second. A lot of first ACs have a second that they use all the time. I have a second that I use all the time, and so the first AC is the key. They lead the camera department. They are
pull the focus
They
and
pull
all
the
that, yeah.
focus. They're responsible for the organization, the workflow. They're like, this is where batteries go. This is where lenses go. This cart's going to be for batteries. This cart's going to be for lenses. They create the workflow in the camera department, and they are, responsible for working hand in hand with the DP. So is the second, but not as much as the first. The DP is going to call on the first. We want to switch from the 35 to the 50. They're going to call on the first for that, not for the second. And the second AC is an assistant to the first AC. They work in the camera department. They work under the first to help with all of that. So if the first AC is building the camera, is like, actually, can you go ahead and take care of the wireless? Can you sync this up to this, and this monitor? Like that's something that they would do. Like they work under the direction of the first, not that it's a complete, dictatorship. It's definitely a partnership, but it's a hierarchy. And so the second AC is the assistant that works under the first. They work hand in hand. And of course, big role of the second AC is slating. So slating on bigger sets is very important. On smaller sets, sometimes not so much. But slating is essential. It is you're communicating information to the editor. You're syncing up the sound and the video. Slating is essential. And so the second AC is responsible for working with the script supervisor to determine what scene are we shooting, and how are we going to letter this? How are we going to name this? They keep track of the shot. They're going to keep detailed logs, sometimes even more detailed logs. If it's a VFX shot, the height of the camera, the angle of the camera. So they're responsible for keeping notes. They're responsible for slating the shot. And most of all, they are a camera technician, just like the first AC.
You're
So
just working hand in hand,
you're working hand in hand. It's a
Like
partnership.
you say, you pick up the lens, you hand the lens. How many people does it take to put on a lens, right? I'm just joking. No, second ACs are very important. And what's crazy always been to me, same thing, less investment than even first AC because you're not usually pulling focus. I mean, you can be, but normally not. And then also, your tools are even provided. Technically, the slate is provided by the sound department, even though the camera department is running it.
Yeah.
So again, very less investment. Build a relationship with the first ACs. I think
Absolutely.
it's a really good role. And
I love second AC.
Yeah.
And there's other aspects to it. also, like, as a second AC, you are the liaison between camera department and post production as well, which is very important. And sometimes on bigger sets, you're gonna have a loader, you're gonna have VTR, you're gonna have a digital utility. But like on smaller sets, it's like the second AC is working hand in hand with the DIT and making sure that the media gets from the camera to the DIT. That is their job. That is their responsibility. And so the second AC is also in charge of media, which is huge because that's the movie.
Exactly. Especially, I'm always amazed by, like, my biggest thing is I've seen enough on other people's sets. This hasn't happened on my set. Never lost footage, but I've seen, footage get lost. So I've always been like, I record simultaneously and on 2 cards and make sure only 1 card leaves to go to DIT. But what's crazy is a lot of these, when it annoys me, is the highest the project, the more we're renting, like a Venice or whatever, or RE. Why do these expensive cameras only have 1 slot? So you only have 1 card, and it better not get lost or damaged. So I always get scared. Either I'm DPing, or even as a director, and maybe that's just because I'm more technical minded, so I'm thinking about the gear. Like, if that card gets lost or something happens, we have no backup, and that's where all the money went. So it's very critical role. Yeah, as a second
it's crazy. AC. Yeah, the second AC. I mean, they are responsible for the media. So when my second AC hands me a card to put in the camera, that card better be ready to format.
And I have been on sets where that wasn't the case. Yeah. So footage was lost. Again, not my set. I was doing whatever role, but I've seen that happen. And trust me, when a production loses, like I said, I don't allow that on my production. But yeah, I'm very careful. But even then, like, I can't be 100%. Never has happened yet. But I've seen that on other productions.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like so extra careful, because I'm like, we cannot. This costs a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
We cannot lose that footage. So it's a very critical role.
It's an important role.
And you better make sure that card makes it safely. It may only be 10 feet, but it better make it.
Yeah. And just like, I always just truly believe that the second AC is just as important as the first AC. You just have different responsibilities. And you're not the key. You work in the camera department instead of leading the camera department, but you're just as important. I would want my second to be able to step in and do my job at any time, which he could.
Yeah.
You can.
And does second get paid about the same, or is it they get paid less just because it's second?
So so you get paid slightly less as a second AC. It's not a huge discrepancy, but it is definitely a lower rate because you're lower down on that ladder. You're not a key, but it is you can still make a lot of money as being a career second. There are a lot of career second ACs in Orlando who make a great living.
Yeah, especially if you move it to bigger productions. I don't know. It's generally both these roles are below the line, right? So they must have union rates if you were to do a union project, right?
Yeah.
I'm not knowledgeable in that, but so I'm saying, if you end up on decent sized productions, especially union productions, you don't have to now have that issue where they're, lowering, making you work at less money. You can get union rates, which are pretty decent.
Yes, yeah,
absolutely. It's just making that network and rising up. So there's nothing wrong with being a second, career second or career first or
Definitely
whatever.
Not. And you could join Local 600 as a second AC, which is cheaper than joining as a first AC, and you could still work first AC roles.
Exactly.
And it's
that's a good tip, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Local 600 is definitely the goal if you want to make a career out of being an AC. Out of being in camera department. Local 600 is expensive. That's how they weed people out, and you need a lot of hours for it. But it's a great title to have. Like, it's Josh Reimer, Local 600. I'm not Local 600, but it's a great thing to add.
Is that
to your
something
resume.
you'd like to?
Absolutely,
because that is your goal, right? You're moving up in the field, or at least that's the.
God knows I have the hours, but I don't have the money. But
no, they charge. I mean, that's all union stuff. Like, I stay away from it. I have done union stuff, but typically I like to do my own thing, right? So I'm non-union, and I enjoy that. But that's because I'm above the line, so I have my reasons, But like I'm saying, if I was in a specific role, I would definitely be looking forward to joining a union because, the hardest thing in this industry, and tell me your perspective on it, is networking. But when you do, so many people are out there to take advantage of you. Yes. So the advantage of union productions is. To me, indie films is a wild, wild west. of filmmaking, and I've heard horror stories after horror stories.
I've
from people.
experienced that horror stories.
and we could talk about some after, but exactly. So I'm like, the advantage of going on a bigger production on a union set, you have defined rates, you've defined hours, defined breaks. Nobody's taking advantage of you. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, still could, but generally speaking, I feel like it's a safer, better work environment, and plus you're in cool projects. You know, they have to be big productions. So yes, it's expensive, but that should be a long-term goal for, I'm saying, if somebody wants to be specific role, you know, in the industry and make a career out of it.
Absolutely.
Right?
The union is there to protect you. Freelance could be dangerous. Freelance is dangerous. And so you need that defined set of rules and regulations to protect the livelihood and the health of your workers. Unions are there to protect you. And so working on non-union projects, it's a wild card. Sometimes it can be dangerous, and sometimes they are out there to take advantage of you. I've been taken advantage of. But also a lot of times, if you are especially if you're working on larger non-union sets, they will be sticklers and they will stick to union rules because they don't want to get flipped. So the union is out there to protect their members, but they're also out there to protect non-members. And I want to make this clear to anybody working in film. If you're working on a non-union set and there are violations and they're not treating you like they should be, you can report that to the union anonymously. You can report those conditions, and the union is out there to protect you, even if you're not a member. And so, I'm working on a larger narrative right here in Orlando, and the union is aware of us. Yeah. We're on the map with them. It's a non-union project. They're aware of us, and that production follows the rules to a T. And I believe
because they don't want to be flipped.
Exactly. Yes.
But here's the other side, and I don't want to say it's always there's obviously what I'm saying. There's a thing where they're doing it intentionally, and there's an unintentional. So in my world, it happens unintentionally. So a lot of times I'll be doing a bigger shoot or whatever with a client and their company. Because I a lot of times, obviously, yes, we do work with agencies. They understand how this works. But you work directly with companies. They have no idea they're supposed to feed us. They give it lunch. And then, as a director, producer, whatever, I know this. So when you do this long enough, I already count for food. As in, like, yes, they're supposed to buy us lunch. But there's a high likelihood they have no idea and they won't. So I have enough money in the budget that I will be buying people food. But it's hilarious. Yeah, we'll be going and we have a 12-hour day or a 10-hour day. And, in the midpoint, the clients just keep going. It's like, no, hold on. We need to order food. Yeah. And I've done that. It's like, okay, I'm for ordering food now. What do you want? So it's like, but we have to, and that's not, I don't think, intentional, right? No. They have no idea.
They just don't know.
They don't understand because, we're not their employees. We're just a contractor or whatever, a vendor that they hired. So they have no idea they're supposed to feed us, give us breaks, all of that. So at least on my side, when it's my production, I make sure, and it may not be in a rude way. I may nudge like that way. Hey, by the way, I'm ordering food. Would you like something? And I'm okay. Obviously, I'm happy to buy them food. They're paying me to be there. Yeah. But you know what I mean? And sometimes you have to do that. But I have been where I am now helping somebody else's productions where they just don't give a crap. Where they're like, hey, stand there. All right. And then now we continue 10 hours later. I'm like, hey, I mean, I'm not like, crazy, but I would like some break or whatever. So, you have to, and that's where you go, you have to nudge, it may not be like it's intentional where somebody just goes. And, it's okay. I'm just saying to, tell them too, because sometimes, like I said, it may not be intentional is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
because they're not used to working with video people. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's what we do is very niche, and it's there are a defined set of rules that a lot of people don't understand if they're not in it, and that's fine. I totally believe that, like, before you report a set to the union, you should definitely talk to your higher ups, talk to the producers, talk to production. At that point, if they're not willing to budge, it's intentional.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you just say, hey, when are we taking lunch or when are we taking break, it may just remind them, or it may remind literally, like I said, the client who has no idea that's a thing, even though it should be common sense, but it's not common. But what I'm saying is, yes, you're right. Like initially, a little nudge or a question can steer it usually in the right direction. And I've had that happen. So I worked with a local agency, just to give you a real world example. Yeah. And I don't complain. Especially, I don't like to eat anyway nowadays on set, just because unhealthy donuts, and
Mhm.
I can only eat so much unhealthy food. But the point is, we went all day, and to be real, I didn't notice. But then I was like, you know what? If I come back again, they're going to do the same thing. So at the end, I was like, oh, thank you for the product. By the way, we didn't take a lunch. And, he was like, oh, you're right. Here's the extra $50 or whatever, which I didn't do it for money, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm generally charging more than $50. So I was fine. But at the end, which I said, no, thank you, by the way, I didn't take his $50. But ever since then, I worked with him at least 5, 10 more times. Always had lunch. It's sometimes it's just that, like, even if you forget, and I was okay with that smaller smaller thing, but I had to kind of like educate them, like, hey, a break would have been nice in there.
Yeah.
So, and then like I said, it's been normal ever since. I've never had to bring it up or whatever. Whether I eat or not, there should be some kind of break, especially on a long 10-hour day or whatever.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and so coming back, I think, yes, you need to sometimes nudge them, but obviously if that's not working, then
That is
follow,
intentional.
yeah. Follow the other.
You don't want to work with those people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where you go. But talk about. I know we're running out of time, so talk about some of the fun stories from set. I guess horrible would be nice, but good ones would be nice. I don't know.
Oh my God.
What's the most memorable stuff?
Oh my God. Honestly, the most memorable stuff is when it's working as it should be. When everything falls into place, when the actors are killing it, the shots look amazing and the gear's behaving on my end. But making movies is a grind, and sometimes it's really terrible and everything goes wrong. And then some days it's really wonderful. I've never felt so dead than I have in this job, and I've never felt so alive. Like it's crazy. Yeah, honestly, my best memories are just from like the projects that have been the most memorable. Like I did this movie with a frequent collaborator of mine, a director that I usually work with, and we did this movie that was premiered on Lifetime. It's a smaller indie movie for Lifetime, under $1 million budget. And it was, I just like, the story was really riveting, and the actors, it was so well casted. And so the actors were just like, they were so in the zone. Oh my God. And it just looked beautiful. We had a great location, and the DP was so talented. And it's just like all of those factors. And I was pulling focus behind the monitor. I was like tearing up at the performances. That's an amazing moment for me. That's a great part of my job.
Because you're zoned in and you're enjoying what you're doing.
I'm
and,
literally
it's just working. Yeah, that's perfect.
At that point, you realize that you're making movies, and it's a great feeling. And you're making good movies. Like that turned out really good. I can't believe that it went to Lifetime, but it was actually a really good project. It's called I'm your biggest fan.
If work means it goes to a Lifetime or Hallmark or whatever, it is life. I'd rather make a project that goes there than nowhere. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So, but talk about the worst stuff. You have any crazy experiences? You don't have to obviously name somebody. But.
Sure. Yeah. I've just been on a lot of sets where they do a lot of sketchy things and they want to get this done, and they're going to do it by any means necessary. Let's see. Yeah, I got to kind of be careful about what I talk about here. I did this commercial once where they hired me on as a second AC and media manager, which isn't super uncommon. Sometimes I'll be hired as both because they work hand in hand. I am versed in media managing, not a DIT. There is a difference, guys. But I can media manage, and so I was hired on as a second AC and media manager. We had 3 main cameras, an A, B, C. We had 2 GoPros and 2 Insta360s. We had a colossal amount of cameras. This was an insanely fast-paced show. We were shooting so much every day. The days were 14 to 15 hours. That was before I was dumping media. I was so backed up. I was splitting my time between second ACing, running to the computer, and media managing. They were getting upset that I was leaving set to go media manage. Yeah. And they were upset that someone else had to take over the slate. Every time I had to fix something with the camera, the producers were standing over us, breathing down our necks. Every time I had to work on anything with the cameras, it was one of the most stressful jobs I've ever been
That's
on.
crazy.
It caused multiple panic attacks for me.
Yeah, because that one easily, like based on just you telling me, I'm like, they should have had a separate person
Yeah,
managing media,
absolutely.
not you. That's a lot of cameras to be, already just managing, but then also, like you said,
I mean, we
going
had
back-
7
yeah,
cameras.
So
It was
that's a lot,
obscene. And along with the just insane schedule, it was an insane schedule.
Yeah.
And so such a fast-paced schedule, 7 cameras, expectations for me to do 2 jobs at the same time. I'm only one person. At the end of the day, I'm only one person. And they were getting upset when I was leaving to do the other job. This company ended up hiring me back, and I do enjoy working with them. And I think it was the nature of that client. I think it was the nature of that specific project and the constraints. But it was still an extremely hostile work environment for me.
And you still worked with them again?
I
That's
did.
Crazy, yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I asked, when I worked with them again, I said, how many cameras are there? And they were like, there's one. You're
Okay.
fine.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I could do that for one camera. But yeah, it was one of the worst experiences of my entire career.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's a lot of cameras to just manage by yourself. I'm saying, just as a media manager, talk about, like doing a second AC job on top of that.
Yeah.
So that's crazy, but that happens. I'll talk about opposites, and it's so funny. I have friends, obviously we do corporate commercial work. They send me a photo. They're on a laptop with like a hard drive and a SD card reader, and they're like, DIT today. I'm like, that's not DIT. You're just copying some
No,
media.
it's media magic.
It's like you just copy, but that's the funny thing of small sets. They have no idea what any of the roles or what it means.
Once you see what a DIT does, you'll be like, oh my God, that is so specialized. That's insane. How do they do that? DIT is a very specialized role, and the best DITs, they are invaluable.
Yeah, but around here, again, not that many productions happening where people experience that, so I get it. So to them, DIT is just, just copying some footage.
Exactly.
And
it's so not, like we have the set I'm working on right now. We have a wonderful DIT. Kyle's great. Like we had one day the DP, he noticed that one camera, we're using 2 Alexa minis, and one camera had a slight discrepancy. Like the green tint it's slightly greener than the other camera. And there's no known reason for it. Honestly, it just came down to the age of the camera, the specific, like the discrepancies between the sensors when it was assembled in the factory. Like that's what it came down to. All the settings were the same. It's the same exact camera. And so he goes to the DIT, and the DIT literally, like we shoot a color chart, and he puts the images next to each other, and he creates a custom LUT to match the cameras up. And so like that's the kind of thing that you want a DIT for. So you know that you're
they're
getting
there
the
to
same
build your
image.
dailies and all that other stuff. They're not just copying media. Obviously, that's part of it, but it's not all they do.
Yeah.
But again, and that's good. That's what I'm saying. Part of this is just maybe somebody learns because I get it, man. Like I said, there's more and more smaller sets. I happen to spend most of my time in most small sets. So it's funny. Like I said, in my world, I work with so many people who just think that just a laptop and a hard drive is all you need in your DIT or whatever. I'm like, hey, whatever floats your boat. As long as your clients are happy, right? At the end of the day, we're not making movies here or whatever. So, but that's pretty good, man. Like I said, this conversation has been incredibly informative for me, and just in general, because like I said, I'm usually on the other side, on the hiring side. I
appreciate you having me on
of
also.
course.
Because we come from different worlds. And,
exactly. My style, and just so producer side, if I ever need a first AC, I just send 5 messages to people. It's like, what's your rate? What's your rate? Right? I have a budget, but people don't reveal that. Usually then you go, oh, I really want this person. And then you go, can I afford them? Then, you go, okay, hey, I only have whatever. Can you do it? That's my side of dealing with first day season. I'm like, okay, you're good. But, but like I said, more sets for me at least are getting smaller.
Yeah.
It's like you need to do more and more. Like we talk about having to buy a Nucleus Nano 2 or whatever, because it's like, no, you need to do more. You need to do more. And, with less money, it's just where I see the industry is going. So I've at least positioned myself to be that company where it's like, hey, we can take, that little money and make as high level commercial as we can, in that budget. Because that's where I see the industry going. But that's not the right thing, to be honest. I still prefer those bigger budgets with working with more people doing those bigger things. It's just I don't know. That's where I see the industry
you
going.
know-
So it's good to connect with people like you, who are
I appreciate
in the
it.
narrative world, who are still getting to be part of something, where at least it doesn't feel like it's collapsing. Like at least I feel like commercial and corporate is, where it's like lesser and lesser roles as the days go by, I feel.
Yeah, and I don't think there's ever like a such thing as the right way to do things. I think that it's totally dependent on what you're shooting, what the
Exactly.
project is, the parameters of the project. If you're doing, if you're doing corporate footage at some conference and you're bringing along a few FX3s and a few people, use Sony lenses, use autofocus. Like,
Yeah,
that's
you don't need
not,
a first
you
AC
don't
at a
need a first
conference.
AC. I understand that my role is not always necessary. Like that is something that you have to understand if you're going to work it. But if you're on something like a movie where focus is now a part of the storytelling, it's how to move the story forward. Then, the right thing
Exactly.
to
Or
do is
it's
to
even
hire a first
a
AC.
good commercial where, especially like you're tired, like you said, you're trying
Yeah.
to sell a story where you need to rack focus. I don't care how good autofocus is, it just never feels natural.
No.
You need a person to do it. And again, that's another task you're handing off to your camera operator who's already dealing with everything, So they're managing battery, media, like
Yeah.
we said. And that's how things go wrong. Media gets deleted or, things get broken. They're also trying to change lenses. It's just, I get it, like you said, coming from that smaller world where, yes, first AC is not, it's going to be hard to sell, to a production, but I think on a decent sized productions, which still happen, even with collapsing
Yeah.
market, we do decent commercials. So I'm saying it's an important role. There's good money in it.
Yeah.
And, if this conversation hasn't helped, then I don't know what will, but, it's good. There's work, as long as you enjoy it, as long as you love it,
Yeah.
especially if you're a nerd like us, who loves cameras and just nerding out right with things.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a perfect role. Like I said, if I wasn't doing what
agree.
I'm doing, I wouldn't mind, because that's what I love to do, is just play
Yeah.
and tinker with, it's like our Legos, right?
No,
So-
absolutely
yeah.
it is.
So why wouldn't you?
No,
right?
I mean, if you love making movies and you want to get into the film industry and you want to serve an important purpose, like First I Seeing is a really great role. You work with the DP, and it's also a great path if you want to be a DP. Working through the camera
Yeah.
department's a great path for that.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a very good perspective too. If you're just wanting to be a DP, and obviously they're not just letting people be on DP, a good, especially
Yeah.
good movies. So that can be a path to move up to kind of show your range and scale, of how you can work through. So before we go, we have some time left. Anything else you want to touch on or talk about?
I just I really appreciate you having me here, and I appreciate that I love always getting a chance to speak on my job, because it is one of the lesser known positions on set. A lot of people don't understand what a first assistant camera does. So I love any chance where I get to speak about it. I actually went back to my high school where I took a TV production program there, and I got to speak to the kids there about First I Seeing, which was really special. But yeah, I guess the only thing I want to say is, like, if you want to get into it, if you want to do it, like, it is a really good role. It just comes with its trials and tribulations, as any freelance career does. But as long as you work on building your network and work on understanding the gear, because the gear is ever evolving, if you are able to retain that knowledge and understand how different cameras work, and the difference between sensors, the difference between lenses, and the difference between the UI of RED and the UI of Sony and the UI of ARRI, if you're able to understand that,
Yeah.
it is definitely something that anybody could get into. And then focus pulling comes along the way.
Yeah, and that, again, like you said, as long as you're following the story, you're feeling the story, you're understanding the arcs. It's not the hard part. It's like that. You have to be, understanding that this is going to change. It's not like the same cameras we use today. It will be the cameras we use
Yeah.
in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. And if you want to do this, you better love the cameras, right?
Absolutely.
You want to learn each new camera as it comes out or whatever, right? And then be part of that process and be that guy, because like you said, DP is going to ask you to change a certain setting,
Yeah.
and you better know where that setting is,
Yeah.
even though the camera's only been out for a week or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where the initiative part comes in, I think. Where if you love it, you already want to figure it out. And most of these companies, and I've said this before, go to their websites. They have menu navigators.
Yeah.
You can learn. I'll do that all the time. Where, like, I hadn't used RED in a while, so when I did RED, I was like, oh, I gotta go find one of these virtual menus and remember where the things are. And it took me 5-10 minutes. I was like, oh, good. And so when I grabbed the camera, I was like, okay, I know where the things are, because it was
Absolutely.
a rental camera. I don't just have it sitting here to remember. So it's okay. I'm just saying, but there's so many resources and tools out there, man. Like if somebody just wants to learn, there's enough out there to
Yeah,
learn. Yeah,
absolutely.
you know.
There's more than there's ever been before. I mean, there are menu simulators and like that's amazing. And like YouTube is such a resource. There will be so many times where there's a piece of gear that I'm using on a job the next day and I don't know how to use it. And I'll look up just a walkthrough of every single part of that piece of gear on YouTube, or I'll literally read my friends joke that I read camera manuals in bed before I go to sleep. It's actually true sometimes. I am in bed reading camera manuals sometimes. Reading
Okay, I don't go
manuals for
that
different
far.
pieces
You know,
of
I'm
gear.
very nerdy, but I'm not reading a manual.
Well, you know, if I
Yeah.
really need to know it,
Yeah.
I'll know it. I'll
Yeah.
make sure that I know it. So it's just about being thorough. It's about being careful. You want to be safe with the gear as well.
Exactly, especially because most times it's not your gear, it's
Yeah.
rented, and that, again, one other way to get blacklisted would be to break something, especially if
Absolutely.
it's not an accident. You know, if negligence happens or whatever, and the biggest thing you can do is not get yourself blacklisted, because again, network is everything. So
Yeah.
you want to do the best you can. If you don't know something, Google or YouTube is your friend, or just ask. You
Ask
know?
questions.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a big
Most
thing.
people will answer questions.
Yeah, just if you don't know something, just always ask questions instead of trying to do it with like that's negligence at that point. If you don't know how to do something, you don't stay curious and you just try to do it because you want to look good. It's probably gonna blow up in your face.
Yeah, and you know,
more often than not.
there's so much jargon in our industry. Even me, like sometimes somebody will say some random word that I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then they'll clap. I was like, oh, that, yeah, I get it. You know, but you wouldn't know if you don't ask. If you just went,
Absolutely.
okay, and then you're not figuring out what do you need, what do they ask you to do. This is just not how it works. And I find most people are very friendly in the
Oh, yeah.
industry. As in, like, if you ask a question, like genuinely, they will answer. They'll tell you they're happy to, because, you know, again, most people love what they do. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be in film. And if they are, they're generally happy to talk about it. It's only when you bug them about the same thing 10 times they're probably not going to want to deal with you ever again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know. But,
But
yeah, that's true.
but this has been incredible, man. Thanks for
Thank you.
coming. I've really had so much fun talking to you off camera and now obviously on camera.
here.
And it's just good to learn what about you do, but in general, just connect with you. I think hopefully we'll get to collaborate soon on a project, and
Absolutely.
it'll be fun.
I would love to.
And I want to thank Mario again.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you
Thank you,
again for
guys.
helping us make this
Thank you,
episode.
Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
people.
before we
Amazing.
go, thank you. And before we go, tell people where they can find you or bug you or follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my Instagram is just my name, so it's Josh Reimer, and so my last name is RIEMER. Everybody gets that wrong on every single call sheet ever. But yeah, that's my Instagram, and my website is jrcinematics.com. And yeah, I mean, all my contact info is on there. I put my phone number, my email, and if anybody has any questions at all, ever, or if
Yeah.
you want to give me work, feel free to contact me.
Yeah, or if you have
text me.
questions, take him to coffee. You know, learn from him. You know, more in detail, and you know, talk about before we get names getting wrong. You know, Josh with name like Vipul Bindra. I imagine one my name looks like on most call sheets. I got to show you a text I got earlier from a client on some equipment to bring, but my name is spelled in most creative way that I've never seen before. I don't know if it's autocorrect or they meant to do it. Anyway,
Yeah.
this has been an awesome episode.
Thank you.
Again for
Yes,
coming.
sir. Thank you. I
Appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Until next time, another episode of Studio B Sessions. Thank you for watching or listening.